The quiet truth about time. Take a deep breath with me, just for a moment. Let's step back from the endless race of to-do lists, notifications, and rushing from one thing to the next. I want to invite you into a space of quiet reflection, a space where we can look honestly at the one thing we can never buy, never rewind, never hold on to: our time. Have you ever paused and wondered, really wondered, how many days, months, or years have slipped through your hands simply because you were busy? So many people, especially as we grow older, suddenly realize we spent our lives occupied, productive, getting things done, but rarely truly living. It's a quiet ache that creeps in, not so much the fear of death, but the regret of not having lived deeply, not having been fully present for the precious days we've been given. There's a story that changed my perspective, and maybe it will resonate with you too. Some years ago, while traveling in the misty mountains of northern Thailand, I met an old monk who had spent most of his life in a tiny temple among the pines. Every morning, he would sit by his wooden window, sipping tea, gazing at the quiet garden outside. One morning, I asked him if he ever felt time moving too fast, if he worried about how much was left. He smiled, a gentle, knowing smile, and said, "When I was young, I ran after time. But now, in old age, I see that time has always been still. It was I who was running." Those words have echoed in my heart ever since. How many of us have spent years running, racing, chasing, believing that if we could just do more, achieve more, be more, we'd finally arrive at that elusive place called happiness? But what if, instead of running, we learned how to stop, to breathe, to simply be present in this moment, in this breath? You see, the real value of life isn't measured by how much we do, but by how deeply we experience each moment. It's not about how many years we live, but how many moments we're truly awake for. Imagine, what would it feel like to let go of the pressure to always be busy, to allow yourself the gift of presence? I invite you to reflect. When was the last time you felt completely present, listening fully to a loved one, savoring a sunset, feeling gratitude for a quiet morning? Buddhist wisdom offers a beautiful reminder. The Buddha once said, "The trouble is, you think you have time." We tend to believe we have endless tomorrows, that there's always another chance, until one day we look back and realize how much slipped away in the name of someday. But here's the hope. It's never too late. No matter how many years have passed or how many mistakes you think you've made, you are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time to begin again. This is the invitation at the heart of this journey. In this video, we'll walk together through 15 quiet lessons, reflections drawn from Buddhist teachings, real-life stories, and the wisdom that comes only with time. We'll explore how to use our time wisely, choose our priorities, deepen our relationships, rediscover creativity, and cultivate a lasting sense of inner peace. Each lesson is a chance to slow down, breathe, and come home to yourself, no matter where you are in life's journey. So, if you're listening now, maybe with a cup of tea beside you, maybe feeling the weight of the day on your shoulders, I want you to know, you have not missed your moment. This is your moment. You don't have to wait until tomorrow to start living with presence, intention, and joy. All it takes is a single breath, a single decision to begin again, right here, right now. Let's walk this path together, gently, mindfully, with open hearts. Are you ready? Let's begin. Lesson 1. The Illusion of Time. Let's take a gentle breath together. As you exhale, I invite you to pause and think back to your childhood. Do you remember how a single summer seemed to last forever? Those long, golden afternoons, bike rides, laughter, the slow hum of cicadas. Each day seemed to stretch on and on, as if we had all the time in the world. But then, somehow, as we grow older, time seems to slip away faster and faster. Years begin to blur, seasons pass almost without notice, and it's as if life itself is racing ahead while we're still trying to catch up. Have you ever wondered why that happens? Why does time feel so slow when we're young, but so fleeting as we age? Neuroscience offers an interesting answer. Our brains are wired to pay close attention to new experiences, moments that are fresh, exciting, or even a little unpredictable. These new memories leave strong, vivid marks in our minds. But as we settle into routines, doing the same things, walking the same paths, repeating the same conversations, our brains stop recording every detail. The days begin to blend together, and before we know it, months or even years have passed, barely noticed. I'm reminded of a conversation I once had with a remarkable woman named Clara. She was 78 years old, with silver hair and eyes full of wisdom. One afternoon, as we sat quietly beneath a maple tree, she confessed, "I don't remember most of my life, not because I didn't live it, but because I wasn't really there." Those words landed deeply with me. Clara had raised children, worked hard, volunteered in her community, yet she felt as though much of her life had passed by almost unnoticed, lost to routine and distraction. And the truth is, Clara's story is not unique. For so many adults, especially as we get older, life can become a series of predictable loops. We wake up, make our coffee, check the news, go about our chores, have conversations that never seem to move beyond the surface. Days bleed into each other, and our minds, ever efficient, simply stop paying attention. But here's where Buddhist wisdom can gently awaken us. The Buddha taught that time, as we experience it, is not a fixed reality. It's a feeling shaped by our own awareness. The more present and awake we are in a moment, the longer and richer that moment feels. Think back to a time you traveled to a new place, or fell in love, or learned something completely new. Didn't those days feel vibrant, almost as if time had slowed down? On the other hand, when we live on autopilot, rushing, distracted, repeating the same routines, time speeds up. We look back and wonder, where did it all go? So, what can we do? How do we reclaim the fullness of our days, especially as the years pass? One powerful practice is to invite small novelties into our daily lives. You don't need to seek out grand adventures or dramatic changes. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a new route on your morning walk, cooking a recipe you've never tried, or sitting in a different chair at breakfast. Even these little shifts can awaken the mind and make time feel more spacious. Another practice, deeply rooted in Buddhist mindfulness, is the intentional pause. Several times a day, stop for just 10 seconds. Feel your breath. Notice the light coming through the window, the feeling of your feet on the floor, the sound of birds outside. These micro moments of awareness anchor you to the present, slowing down the rush of time and bringing you back to yourself. Keeping a journal, even just a few lines a day, can also help. When you write down what you noticed, what moved you, or what you're grateful for, you invite your mind to savor and remember the richness of each day. The Buddha's wisdom is clear. Time is not something we need to chase after. It's not a river we must swim against. Instead, time is something we awaken to, through mindful presence, through gentle curiosity, through the willingness to truly live each moment as it is. So, as we move forward in this journey together, I encourage you, don't let your days slip by unnoticed. Bring your attention, your breath, your heart into the moments that matter, big or small. Because the real miracle is not in having more time, but in being more present for the time we already have. Let's practice, together, the art of truly being here.
Lesson 2. What truly matters. Let's take another slow, mindful breath together. Have you ever reached a moment in life, maybe after a big achievement or the end of a long week, when you stopped and wondered, is this really what matters? So often, we spend years chasing what we're told is important: work, career milestones, a growing bank account, the next thing on our to-do list. And yet, as time passes, many of us find ourselves quietly questioning the real value of all that hustle. I want to share with you a story that changed the way I see meaning. Years ago, I met Helen, a 72-year-old retired nurse during a hospice volunteer training. She had spent her career helping to deliver babies, comforting the sick, and being with people in their final hours. As we sat together one afternoon, she spoke with a calm, steady voice. "You know, in all my years sitting with people as they were dying, not a single person ever wished they had spent more time at work. No one ever asked for more meetings, more money, or one last look at their email. What they wanted was more time with family, more peace, more moments to simply be." Helen's words have stayed with me ever since. How many of us, if we're honest, are spending our best energy on things that, in the end, may not really matter? What do we put off? Time with loved ones, real rest, quiet moments for ourselves, because we think we'll get to it someday. Buddhist wisdom offers a powerful teaching known as the 5 remembrances, or Pancha Anusati. The practice asks us to reflect daily on these truths. I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape aging. I am of the nature to become ill. I cannot avoid sickness. I am of the nature to die. I cannot avoid death. Everything and everyone I love will one day be separated from me. My actions are my only true belongings. This is not meant to make us fearful or sad, but to awaken us. When we face these realities with open eyes and an open heart, we are called back to what really matters, right here, right now. We begin to see that the truly precious things are not things at all. They're the moments we share with those we love, the inner peace we cultivate, the gentle ways we touch the world. Maybe it's time to gently ask ourselves, if today were my last day, what would I truly want to give my time and attention to? What would I regret not doing, not saying, not feeling? It can be a powerful practice every morning to write down just one answer to this question. Let it shape your choices, even in the smallest ways. Let it remind you that you get to decide what fills your days and your heart. There is also a deeper invitation here, to live according to your dharma, not just your job or your role in society, but your soul's calling, the unique way you are meant to show up in the world. Your dharma might be raising a family, nurturing a garden, being a friend who listens deeply, or simply learning to live with more compassion and presence. It is not about accomplishment for its own sake, but about living a life of intention. As we move through this journey together, I invite you to gently turn your attention to what truly matters in your life. What would it look like today to put aside the pressure of should and choose instead from the place of deepest meaning? Who would you call? What would you let go of? How would you show up for yourself and those you care about? Remember, the greatest treasures are often the simplest. A kind word, a shared laugh, a peaceful mind. You don't have to wait for a crisis or for the end of the road to start living in alignment with what you value most. You can begin right here, right now, with this breath. So, as you listen to the rest of this series, let each reflection be an invitation, not to do more, but to live more deeply, more gently, more awake to the miracle of being alive. Let's continue, together, on this path of discovering what truly matters. Lesson 3. Relationships, Sacred Ground. Let's pause for a moment and bring to mind the people who have shaped our lives, the friends, family members, mentors, and even those who once felt distant. If you're like most of us, as the years go by, you may notice a quiet ache, a sense of longing or regret about certain relationships that faded, friendships lost to time, or words left unsaid. I want to share with you a story that stayed with me. A few years ago, during a community gathering, I met Roy, an 80-year-old man with gentle eyes and hands that trembled slightly with age. Over tea, Roy opened up about his younger brother. They'd had a falling out over something small, something that seemed so important at the time, but, as decades passed, became just a memory tinged with sadness. For over 30 years, Roy hadn't spoken to his brother. He told me, "I wrote letter after letter, but I never sent them. I didn't know how to begin again. Now, hardly a week goes by that I don't think of him." Roy's story is not unique. It's a gentle reminder that the people in our lives matter far more than our pride, old grudges, or the little things we let stand between us. Buddhist wisdom teaches that hatred never ceases by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal law. When we hold on to resentment, it's like grasping a hot coal. We're the ones who get burned. The path to peace, both within ourselves and with others, is always rooted in compassion, forgiveness, and the willingness to soften. In Buddhism, relationships are seen as a kind of karmic ground, a field where the seeds of our intentions, words, and actions take root and grow. Every smile, every moment of honest listening, every act of kindness, and even the simple gesture of remembering someone's birthday or favorite tea, these are all seeds. Over time, they blossom into trust, warmth, and understanding. But, just as in any garden, if we neglect the soil, if we allow misunderstandings to fester or take our connections for granted, distance and sorrow can take over. So, how can we tend to the sacred ground of our relationships, even when it feels daunting or the years have stretched too far? Sometimes it's as simple as reaching out, a call, a handwritten note, or even a short message saying, "I was thinking of you." Other times, it might be a quiet practice of loving kindness meditation, what Buddhists call metta bhavana. You can sit, close your eyes, and bring to mind someone you've lost touch with. Silently wish them happiness, health, and peace, even if you never say the words aloud. I know from personal experience that healing old wounds doesn't always mean relationships return to how they once were. Not every door will reopen, and that's okay. What matters is that we free our own hearts from the heaviness of regret and the stories that keep us closed off. Sometimes, the most powerful reconciliation happens inside us, letting go of what we cannot change and sending love even across distance or silence. Let me ask you gently, is there someone in your life you wish you could reach out to, even in a small way? Is there a conversation you've been holding in your heart, or a simple "I'm sorry" or "I miss you" that you've never spoken? It's never too late to plant seeds of kindness. Even if all you can offer today is a silent blessing or a memory held with tenderness, you are cultivating peace, not only in your relationships, but within your own spirit. In the end, the true measure of our lives isn't how many people we've met, but how deeply we've shown up for those we've crossed paths with. Relationships are the sacred ground where we practice compassion, forgiveness, and presence. So let's choose, whenever we can, to tend to this ground with care, one word, one gesture, one moment of loving awareness at a time. Let's keep walking this journey together, softening, forgiving, and allowing love to heal even the oldest stories. Lesson 4. Meaning and Inner Work. Let's pause together for a moment of honesty. For so many of us, work becomes a central thread in the tapestry of our lives. Our days are structured by routines, responsibilities, and the sense of identity that comes from what we do. But what happens when the job ends, when the title disappears, and the calendar opens up wide? It's a question that can feel both liberating and strangely unsettling. I remember a conversation with Richard, a retired architect I met at a community center. For over 40 years, Richard poured his creativity into designing hospitals, schools, and spaces for life to unfold. But after retirement, he found himself drifting. Not because he missed the work itself, but because he didn't know who he was without it. "It's not that I need more to do," he told me, "it's that I don't know who I am when I'm not building something." I saw in Richard a quiet ache that's more common than we often admit. When the outer world quiets down, the inner world grows louder, asking questions we might have pushed aside for years. What gives my life meaning now? What do I have to offer if not my job or my productivity? Buddhism invites us to look deeply at these questions through the lens of sankhara, the patterns of mind, the habits and identities we've built up over decades. These formations shape how we see ourselves and the world.
When left unexamined, they can quietly run our lives, pushing us to keep busy, to prove our worth, to stay distracted from the deeper callings of our heart. But there's a beautiful opportunity in retirement, or in any moment of transition, to rewrite the story. Instead of seeing the end of a career as a loss, we can meet it as a gateway into a different kind of purpose, one that is not about achievement, but about presence and connection. Think about it. When you're no longer defined by a job title, what truly matters? Maybe it's mentoring a young neighbor, sharing stories with your grandchildren, planting a garden with reverence, or volunteering, not just to fill the hours, but to nurture a sense of belonging and contribution. One woman I know began reading aloud at the library every Thursday, saying it was her dharma in disguise, a simple act that gave her days new warmth and meaning. The lesson is this: our value doesn't lie in how much we do, but in who we become. It's about showing up wholeheartedly for the moments and people in front of us. You don't have to fill every day with busyness to be worthy. Sometimes your quiet presence, your listening, your stories, and your compassion are the greatest gifts you can offer. Maybe, like Richard, you feel a bit adrift. That's okay. It's natural to grieve what has ended and to wonder what's next. But notice, beneath the surface of uncertainty is the freedom to discover new ways to serve, to love, and to be. Try asking yourself, what brings my heart alive now? It could be as simple as making soup for a friend, writing a letter to someone you care about, or sitting with a neighbor who's feeling lonely. Or maybe it's taking time for your own inner growth, journaling, meditating, or simply savoring the quiet beauty of your own company. Buddhist teachings remind us that the most important work is often internal, the gentle, ongoing transformation of the heart. Presence, generosity, stillness. These qualities grow stronger the more we nurture them, not through endless doing, but through the willingness to simply be. If you ever find yourself wondering, am I doing enough? Try turning the question around. Am I being enough? Am I present, generous, and awake to the life that's here, right now? You are more than your accomplishments. You are a living, breathing testament to all you have survived, learned, and loved. This season of your life can be a time of quiet flowering, a chance to embody your values, to give from the heart, and to find new meaning in the small, sacred acts of daily living. Let's remember, true fulfillment comes not from how much we build, but from how deeply we belong, to ourselves, to others, to this unfolding moment. And as we continue this journey together, may we each find the courage to let go of old definitions and to embrace the gentle, authentic purpose that calls us forward, one mindful step at a time.
Lesson 5. Health, Energy, and Loving the Body. Let's take a soft, mindful breath together, just feeling what it's like to inhabit this body, right here, right now. Aging is something we all experience if we're lucky enough to keep living. And yet, as the years pass, many of us find ourselves struggling with change. The aches that linger, the slower mornings, the way a short walk can feel like an epic journey. In our culture, it's so easy to fall into frustration or even resentment, wishing our bodies were stronger, more energetic, more like they once were. But what if there's another way? What if these changes are not signs of failure, but gentle invitations to relate to our bodies with kindness, gratitude, and even wonder? I want to share with you the story of Grace, a woman I met at a mindfulness retreat in Northern California. Grace was 74, and not long before, she'd undergone hip surgery. All her life, she had been fiercely independent, hiking, gardening, even teaching yoga. But after her operation, she felt like a stranger in her own skin. At first, I felt betrayed by my body, she told me, her voice both strong and vulnerable. But then I realized the only way to heal was to become gentler with myself. I watched as Grace practiced what Buddhists call kaya anupassana, mindful contemplation of the body. She approached each step with her cane as if it were a lesson in presence. She learned to thank her feet for carrying her, to feel the sun on her face, to forgive her body for slowing down. One morning, she said to me with a smile,
I always thought I needed to get strong again, but what I really needed was to get kind. This is the essence of Buddhist teaching. Our bodies are not obstacles to enlightenment. They are the very foundation of mindfulness. The Buddha encouraged his students to honor the body, to observe its sensations, its rhythms, and its limitations, not with judgment, but with loving awareness. You might try a simple body scan meditation, lying down or sitting comfortably, bringing your attention slowly from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Notice where you feel tension, where you feel warmth, where you feel nothing at all. Instead of trying to fix or change anything, see if you can simply offer your attention, as you would to a beloved friend. So often we push through fatigue or ignore pain, but after a certain age, our bodies start whispering and sometimes shouting for care, not for control. Gentle movement can become a sacred ritual, not a chore. A short walk in the morning sunlight, a few slow stretches before bed, or a quiet yoga practice can help you reconnect with the simple joy of being alive. You don't have to run marathons or push your limits to show your body love. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply listening, asking, "What do you need today?" and honoring the answer. And if you find yourself grieving what has changed, know that you are not alone. Every wrinkle, every scar, every slower step is a story of survival, of living, of having made it this far. You can offer yourself forgiveness for the harsh words, the impatience, the times you pushed too hard. Gratitude grows from this acceptance. Thank you, body, for carrying me through every storm and every celebration. As the Buddha taught, to keep the body in good health is a duty. Otherwise, we shall not be able to keep our mind strong and clear. Health, in this sense, is not about perfection, but about presence, about meeting yourself where you are, again and again, with compassion. So, I invite you today, pause, breathe, and let your next movement, no matter how small, be an act of kindness to yourself. The journey of aging is not just about surviving, it's about discovering new ways to love the body you're in. Let's continue, step by gentle step, honoring the gift of this body, imperfect, resilient, and truly miraculous.
Lesson 6. Learning and sharing wisdom. Let's begin today's reflection with a gentle reminder. It's never too late to learn, and it's never too soon to share what you know. So often, we're told that learning is a pursuit for the young, a race that ends with a diploma or the close of a career. But the truth is, some of life's deepest lessons and richest wisdom don't emerge until the rush of achievement has quieted, and we're finally able to listen, to observe, and to reflect in a deeper way. I remember meeting Samuel at a meditation retreat in New Mexico. He was 92, with a sparkle in his eye and a patient, soft-spoken presence. Every morning, he'd greet newcomers not with small talk, but with a sincere question. "What are you learning these days?" At first, people would laugh, unsure how to answer. But Samuel would just smile and wait, making it clear that the question wasn't a test, it was an invitation. One day, Samuel shared with us that he was learning to be gentle with his own fear of forgetting names. He said, "At my age, you start to lose little pieces of memory. But I found that if I treat my forgetfulness with kindness, it feels less like losing and more like letting go." His vulnerability was a lesson in itself, a reminder that learning is as much about humility as it is about mastery. This is the gift of aging, the chance to be a student again, not of textbooks or exams, but of life itself. The Buddhist path speaks of beginner's mind, a state of openness, curiosity, and willingness to see things anew, even after decades of experience. And as we get older, we're invited to keep asking, what is life teaching me now? Where can I soften, open, or grow? But learning doesn't have to be solitary. In fact, wisdom becomes most powerful when it's shared. Buddhist tradition sees teaching as an act of compassion. And yet you don't need to be an expert or hold a formal title to pass on what you know.
Often, the most meaningful lessons are not the ones found in books, but those born from our own lived experience. How we moved through loss, what helped us heal, what brought us peace when life was uncertain. Perhaps you love telling stories about your childhood, your adventures, or the mistakes that taught you the most. Maybe you have a simple meditation practice you could share with a friend, or a favorite passage from a Buddhist text that brought you comfort on a hard day. You might try writing a daily journal, or even picking up a musical instrument for the first time, just for the joy of learning. The truth is, you don't need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. Authenticity, more than expertise, is what lights the path for others. Let's not forget, everyone we meet can be our teacher. The young teach us about wonder, the old about endurance, and even our own struggles remind us of our shared humanity. When we gather and share, be it in a story circle, a community class, or over a simple cup of tea, we multiply our wisdom, and we remind each other that we're not alone. So, let me ask you, what are you learning these days? And who could benefit from hearing your story, no matter how ordinary it seems? Let's keep our hearts open to new lessons and our hands open to pass them on. Because in the end, learning and sharing are two sides of the same path, both helping us and those around us to awaken a little more each day. Let's continue this journey of wisdom together, one humble lesson at a time.
Lesson 7. Peace in the Storm of Emotions. Let's begin with a gentle breath. As we age, many of us believe we should have mastered our feelings by now, should have learned to keep a steady face, to hold back the tears, to let go of anger or regret. Yet, even after decades, emotions can still surprise us. Grief or joy, shame or gratitude, they rise and fall in waves, sometimes as intense as when we were young. I want to share with you a story that deeply touched my heart. Arthur, at 81, joined a week-long meditation retreat. He was the quiet type, dignified and thoughtful. On the third day, he didn't show up for our afternoon session. Later, I found him outside, sitting alone, his shoulders gently shaking. When I sat down beside him, Arthur confided, "I just remembered something I said to my wife 40 years ago. It was cruel, and I never apologized. It came back so sharply, I couldn't hold back the tears." It's powerful to realize the past doesn't always stay in the past. Sometimes the heart delivers old letters long after we thought they'd been lost. It's easy, especially as we grow older, to fall into the trap of believing we should be in control of every feeling, that sadness is a weakness or anger a failure. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us emotions are not our enemies. They're not obstacles on the path. They are visitors, passing clouds in the vast sky of our awareness. We don't need to suppress them or pretend they don't exist. Instead, we can greet them with gentle presence. One of the most beautiful practices for working with strong emotions is known by the acronym RAIN. It's simple but deeply transformative. Recognize what is happening. Notice without judgment. This is sadness. This is anger. Allow it to be there. Don't push it away or cling to it. Just let it be. Investigate with kindness. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts or memories arise? What does this emotion need from you? Nurture yourself. Place a gentle hand on your heart. Offer yourself words of compassion. It's okay to feel this. I'm here for you. Science tells us that unless we feed an emotion with stories and resistance, most feelings last only about 90 seconds. If we stop fighting, if we simply let them move through, emotions often dissolve like mist in the morning sun. True peace isn't the absence of emotion. It's the willingness to be present with whatever arises without judgment or fear. The Buddha himself grieved, laughed, and loved deeply. He reminded his followers, as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise are not moved by praise or blame. But he never said we would stop feeling. He only taught us how to meet each feeling with mindfulness and heart. So, if you've ever scolded yourself for still getting angry, or wept over an old memory, or felt embarrassed by your vulnerability, know that you are only human.
You are not failing. Emotions are simply reminders that you're alive, that you care, that you're still connected to the world and to those you love. If a wave of sadness or regret comes, try sitting quietly, placing a hand over your heart, and breathing through it with kindness. Let your emotions move through you, like visitors, not squatters. And ask yourself gently, what is this feeling here to teach me? Can I be with it just for a moment without running away? Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is allow ourselves to feel it all. Peace isn't found in controlling the storm, but in learning to rest at the center of it, awake, compassionate, and alive. Let's keep walking together, learning to trust that no emotion is too big to hold and no feeling is too small to honor. With mindfulness, every feeling, pleasant or painful, becomes a path back to our true, unshakable peace. Lesson 8. Money, Time, and Inner Wealth. Let's pause for a gentle breath together, a chance to look inward, to feel the quiet space beneath all our striving and acquiring. If you were to set aside your bank statements and to-do lists for just a moment, what would true wealth mean to you? For much of our lives, we're taught to pursue security. We work hard, save diligently, and dream of one day feeling truly comfortable, maybe owning a home, paying off the bills, or having enough set aside for the people we love. There's a quiet wisdom in planning for the future. But have you ever reached a milestone and found yourself wondering, is this all there is? You're not alone. Many people, especially as they grow older, begin to sense an unexpected emptiness. They look around at the things they've gathered and realize, I built a fortress of possessions, but somehow forgot to build a life. A house can be full of objects, yet the heart may feel starved for something richer: connection, meaning, peace. Buddhist wisdom offers a clear reminder here. The Buddha once said, "The tighter you grasp, the more you suffer. True wealth is a heart that knows how to let go." Think of money or belongings like water held in your hands. Squeeze too tightly and it slips away. Hold with an open palm and it can nourish you and others. When our hearts are closed by fear or attachment, even abundance can become a burden. But when we let go of worry, of comparison, of needing more, generosity and freedom naturally begin to flow. In today's world, we often measure success in dollars or square footage. But there's a growing movement called time affluence, the sense of having enough time to do what matters. Research shows that people who value and protect their time, who choose experiences over things, presence over possessions, report much greater happiness and fulfillment. Let's explore this idea together. Would you give up an hour of overtime for a slow morning coffee with your partner? Would you trade the latest phone for an afternoon at the park with your grandchild, or for time volunteering in your community? Which memories shine brighter? The expensive purchases, or the simple moments you spent laughing, learning, or loving with others? There's a hidden cost to accumulating more and more. The bigger the house, the more rooms to clean. The fancier the car, the higher the insurance, and the greater the worry. Even the latest gadgets can end up as clutter, demanding our time and energy. Sometimes our possessions quietly begin to own us. Ask yourself gently, are there things I thought would bring comfort, but now bring stress or obligation? What could I release, just a little, to create space for peace, creativity, or rest? Buddhist teaching reminds us that abundance is not found in having it all, but in appreciating enough and in the willingness to share. Instead of filling our lives with shopping or collecting, what if we invested in small, intentional acts of kindness? Leave a note or flowers for a neighbor. Invite a friend for tea. Donate to a cause, or simply offer your time and listening to someone in need. Even small gestures can become treasures, planting seeds of joy and connection that last far longer than any object. Studies show that people who spend their money on experiences, like travel, learning, or quality time with loved ones, or on others, rather than on themselves, are consistently happier, more grateful, and less likely to regret their choices later on. In the end, fulfillment comes not from what we store in our closets, but from what we open in our hearts. So, let's pause again. If you had just a little more time, how would you use it? Who would you want to share it with? What could you let go of? An object, a habit, even an old belief to create more room for what matters most? True wealth isn't measured by your net worth, but by your presence, your generosity, and your capacity for gratitude. As the Buddha reminds us, let go, and you will be free. As you move through this stage of life, remember, you are invited not to hoard, but to share. Not to build higher walls, but to open wider doors, first to yourself, then to others. May you discover the kind of abundance that money can never buy. Peace of mind, wonder in ordinary moments, and a heart that feels light, open, and deeply alive. Let's keep walking this journey together, learning to trust that the richest treasures are those we find and give from within.
Lesson 9. Creative Expression. Let's begin with a soft breath and imagine for a moment, what if creativity wasn't just for the young or the talented, but a birthright that belongs to all of us at any age? There's a quiet myth in our culture that creativity fades as we grow older, or that we need some special talent to make something beautiful. But the truth, revealed in both science and spiritual wisdom, is that creativity is less about age or skill and more about presence, a willingness to explore, to notice, to express what is alive in our hearts. I want to share with you the story of Martha. At 71, after her husband passed away, Martha felt an emptiness in her days and a longing she couldn't quite name. One afternoon, she found a box of old paints in her garage. With nothing to lose, she began to paint, at first just to pass the time, but soon her kitchen filled with colors, landscapes, sunsets, simple portraits of flowers. "I thought I'd missed my chance to be creative," she told me, "but maybe this is just a new season." Martha's story is not unique. Around the world, people are rediscovering that creativity doesn't end with youth. In fact, it often deepens with time. As we age, we collect not just years, but stories, emotions, subtle ways of seeing the world. In Buddhist practice, creative expression is a kind of moving meditation, a way to listen more deeply to the present moment and to let what's inside us find gentle form in the outer world. And it doesn't need to look a certain way. Maybe for you, creativity is writing a poem or planting a new flower in the garden. Maybe it's baking bread, arranging a meal, snapping photos on a morning walk, or even humming a tune as you tidy up the house. The purpose isn't perfection or praise, it's nourishment for the soul, a way to reconnect with the parts of ourselves that still long to play, to wonder, to explore. Let me ask you, when was the last time you did something creative, not to impress anyone, but simply to enjoy the process? What if you allowed yourself to make art or music or a beautiful mess without worrying about the result? In my own life, I've found that the act of creating, however small, brings a quiet joy, a sense of being truly alive and awake. There's a teaching in Zen Buddhism: you are not too old, you are not too late, you are simply in a riper season. Sometimes the world convinces us that if we didn't start young, or if our work isn't perfect, it's not worth doing, but the heart knows otherwise. Each season of life brings its own colors, textures, and forms of expression. What matters isn't how others judge our creations, but how fully we allow ourselves to show up and be real. So, if you've ever wanted to try painting, or dance in your living room, or write down your memories for your grandchildren, let this be your gentle invitation. Buy a notebook and fill it with thoughts. Arrange flowers just for yourself. Experiment in the kitchen, or try your hand at photography with your phone. Notice the beauty of the process and let go of the outcome. You might even discover that your creativity inspires someone else. Children, friends, even strangers are touched when we share what's true and handmade from the heart. But even if no one ever sees your art, the act of creating can heal, uplift, and deepen your sense of self-compassion.
You are never too old to make something new. You are simply blooming in a richer, fuller season of your life. Your creativity, however humble, is a gift to yourself and quietly to the world. So let's keep nurturing this playful, wise, and open-hearted spirit together. And remember, the only permission you need to create is your own willingness to begin.
Lesson 10. Energy and living slowly. Take a slow, gentle breath with me. Let's pause together, not to talk about how much time we have left, but about the deeper question. What are we actually able to give our energy to, and how do we want to spend it? As we get older, we sometimes hear the advice to make the most of our time. But anyone who's ever felt tired, burned out, or weighed down by loss knows that time alone isn't enough. What really matters, especially in our later years, isn't just having hours on the calendar, but having the energy to make those hours meaningful. Let me tell you about Elias. At 73, after his wife passed away, he found himself with plenty of free time for the first time in decades. But instead of feeling liberated, Elias felt empty, exhausted, not from overwork, but from years of always giving, always caring for others, and never truly pausing to refill his own well. He told me, "I thought when I finally had time, I'd do all the things I dreamed about. But now, I just feel tired." This is a feeling many people share, even if they don't speak it out loud. It's easy to believe we should keep saying yes, keep pushing through, keep filling our days just to prove our value or avoid discomfort. But Buddhist wisdom gently suggests something different: the importance of right effort. Not working harder, but directing our precious energy to what truly matters and letting the rest fall away. Ask yourself, where does your energy naturally want to go? Which people, projects, or daily rituals actually give something back to you, filling you up rather than draining you? Are there habits or obligations you could gently set aside, creating more space for what nourishes your heart and spirit? One of the simplest, most radical acts of self-compassion as we age is learning to protect our energy. That might mean saying no more often, or letting go of activities that used to be important but no longer bring you joy or meaning. You might find it helps to simplify your daily decisions, wearing what's comfortable, preparing easy meals, sticking to routines that lighten your load rather than add to it. Don't underestimate the power of rest. In modern culture, rest is often seen as a luxury or even a weakness, but in truth, it's a deep form of wisdom. Just as a candle cannot burn without fuel, we cannot be present, generous, or creative without restoring ourselves. Allow yourself to nap, to sit quietly by a window, to do nothing at all for a few minutes each day. These are not wasted moments. They are how you honor the life force that remains within you. You might even try a little experiment. Before starting any activity, pause and ask yourself, does this give me life or does it take it away? Listen to your body's subtle signals. If you feel a lift, a spark, a sense of ease, maybe that's worth your energy. If you feel heaviness or dread, it might be a sign to let it go, at least for today. It can also be deeply helpful to develop small daily rituals that help restore your energy. Maybe it's walking outside each morning, having tea in silence, practicing a few mindful breaths, or connecting with a friend. These tiny acts can become anchors, reminding you to move slowly, intentionally, and with deep respect for the miracle of your own being. Remember, you do not have to be everything for everyone, nor do you need to fill every hour with productivity. Your worth is not measured by what you accomplish, but by how present and alive you feel, however quietly. So, as you move through this chapter of life, I invite you to guard your energy like the precious treasure it is. Spend it where it counts, on love, on rest, on wonder, on the simple joys of being alive. Trust that slowing down is not giving up.
It's finally giving yourself what you truly deserve. Let's keep learning, together, how to move more gently, live more slowly, and honor every ounce of energy we have with gratitude and care.
Lesson 11. Community and the Power of Belonging. Let's take a gentle breath together. I'd like to invite you to pause for a moment and reflect. When was the last time you truly felt seen, not just surrounded by people, but genuinely recognized, remembered, valued? It's one of the quiet paradoxes of life that even when we're not alone, we can still feel lonely. You can be in a room full of family, or sit in a crowded cafe, or pass neighbors each day, and yet still carry a subtle ache. The sense that you're invisible, or that no one really knows you deep down. I remember the story of Ruth, a woman in her late 70s who started attending a small Buddhist center every Sunday. When someone asked her why she kept coming back, she smiled softly and said, "Because here, someone remembers my name." That simple sentence says so much about the true meaning of community. It's not about grand events or how many people are in the room. It's about those tiny moments, someone greeting you, asking how you are, or noticing when you're absent. In Buddhist tradition, the power of community is sacred. The three jewels of Buddhism are the Buddha, the Dharma, the teachings, and the Sangha, the community. Sangha isn't just a place you go, it's a circle of support, a space where your joys and struggles are shared, where compassion flows quietly between friends, sometimes even between strangers. The Buddha himself said, "Admirable friendship is actually the whole of the holy life." He understood that wisdom blossoms most beautifully when we're held by others who walk the path with us. Think about your own life. When have you felt most at home, most alive? Was it in the big, noisy celebrations, or was it in a quiet conversation, a shared cup of tea, a neighbor's smile on a tough day? Sometimes what we crave isn't answers, but connection, a gentle reminder that we matter and that we belong. Building community doesn't require anything dramatic. It starts with simple acts. Invite a neighbor for a walk, or form a small tea group with friends who need a pause in their busy week. Call someone just to check in, not for any reason except that you care. Show up at local gatherings, even if it feels awkward at first. Or, if you find yourself in a new place, be the first to reach out. You never know who else might be wishing for connection. I've seen the ripple effects of this kind of belonging. An elder in my own neighborhood started hosting a Sunday afternoon tea circle in her backyard. No agenda, no expectations, just whoever wanted to show up, drink tea, and share a story or a silence. People began looking forward to it all week. Over time, what started as a few neighbors became a small sanctuary of friendship, proof that just being present can be enough. If you're feeling alone right now, please remember, you are not the only one. So many are quietly hoping for the same thing. Sometimes all it takes is a small gesture, a smile, a wave, a question, or simply remembering someone's name, to begin weaving those invisible threads of belonging. In the end, community is less about numbers and more about presence. It's about showing up for others and allowing them to show up for you. So ask yourself, who might need a little reminder today that they matter? Who could you reach out to just to say, "I see you, I remember you"? Maybe it's a neighbor, a friend, or even someone you've lost touch with. Your one simple act of kindness could be the turning point in someone else's day or in your own. Let's remember, we don't walk this path alone, and even in the quietest moments, we are more connected than we know. May we all keep building circles of kindness, one gentle presence at a time. Lesson 12. Clarity and wise decision-making. Let's take a moment to slow down and settle into stillness together. Have you ever noticed that getting older doesn't always mean getting wiser,
at least not automatically. We sometimes assume that age brings clarity and better judgment, but the truth is, real wisdom isn't handed to us by the passing of years. It's something we have to cultivate day by day, choice by choice, especially when life gets complicated. I want to share with you the story of Janice, a woman in her 70s who discovered something quietly powerful about making decisions. For most of her life, Janice would react quickly. If something upset her, she'd respond with emotion, following the first impulse that arose. But as she grew older, she began to realize that many of her regrets came from these snap reactions. So she tried something new. She would pause, breathe, and ask herself, what's really true in this moment? That simple question, what is true, became her anchor, allowing her to move beyond old patterns and see things with fresh eyes. In Buddhist tradition, this kind of clarity is called vipassana, insight, or clear seeing. It's not about having all the answers, but about looking deeply and honestly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Clarity grows when we become curious about our own minds, and when we learn to question the stories we automatically tell ourselves. So, how do we actually practice wise decision-making in daily life? One helpful tool is second-order thinking. Instead of just reacting to what's in front of us, we pause and ask, if I make this choice, what might happen next? And then what? What are the ripples my decision could create? It's like playing chess with life, thinking not just one move ahead, but several. Another powerful approach is inverse thinking. Instead of only asking, how do I get what I want, we ask, how am I, perhaps unintentionally, contributing to my own stress or confusion? It takes humility to look inward and admit our part in the situations we find ourselves in. But this is where real growth begins. For example, are you agreeing to things that drain your energy? Are you avoiding difficult conversations, hoping problems will disappear? Sometimes the bravest decision is to see how we might be standing in our own way. Buddhist practice encourages us to ask deeper questions too. When you're facing a choice, big or small, try pausing and asking yourself, is this in alignment with my deepest values? Not, will this make others happy, or is this what I'm supposed to do, but does this feel true to who I am and the life I want to live? You may not always have a perfect answer, but over time, this practice builds a kind of inner compass, a steady light you can return to no matter how stormy life gets. In my own journey, I've learned that clarity often comes not in the rush to decide, but in the willingness to wait, to sit quietly, to let the surface of the mind settle like a still pond. When you give yourself space, sometimes the right answer floats up naturally, surprising you with its simplicity. Remember, wise choices rarely come from fear, urgency, or the need to please. They arise from a place of stillness and honest self-reflection. So, next time you're unsure about a relationship, a career change, or even how to spend your afternoon, try slowing down. Take a few breaths. Ask yourself, what is really true here? What matters most to me? What are the consequences, both seen and unseen? You might be surprised by the wisdom that's already inside you, just waiting for a moment of attention. Let's keep practicing together the art of wise seeing and wise choosing, because every moment gives us a chance to grow clearer, kinder, and more fully awake.
Lesson 13. Designing a life of inner peace. Let's take a slow, grounding breath together. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a garden, not a wild, untamed jungle, but a sacred space you can tend and nurture, day by day, choice by choice. What kind of garden do you want to create with the time you have left? One of the quiet truths I've learned, both from Buddhist wisdom and from meeting people in all walks of life, is that inner peace isn't something we stumble into by accident or something that happens only when the outside world is perfect. It's something we cultivate, moment to moment, like a careful gardener,
pulling weeds, planting seeds, and deciding what to water and what to let go. There's a story that stayed with me about Thomas, a retired firefighter. For years, his whole identity was about putting out emergencies, responding to every alarm. But after he retired, Thomas found himself waking up to long, quiet days that no longer demanded quick action. At first, he felt restless, unsure how to fill the space. But slowly, he started new rituals: writing in a journal, taking slow morning walks, lighting candles each evening instead of rushing to put out fires. He told me, "I used to spend my life extinguishing flames. Now I'm learning to create light." This is the heart of designing a peaceful life, realizing that you can choose to make your life gentler, softer, and more true to your spirit. What does this look like in practice? Sometimes it's as simple as making one small, loving change each day. Maybe it means starting your morning with silence instead of scrolling through headlines, or setting aside just 10 minutes to meditate, reflect, or write down your thoughts. It could be saying no to obligations that drain you without guilt, or saying yes only when your heart feels that subtle spark of aliveness. It also means letting go of what no longer serves you, whether that's the urge to be perfect, relationships that leave you empty, or stories about yourself that keep you stuck. Ask yourself, what are you still holding on to out of habit or fear? Is there something you could lay down just for today to make space for something more nourishing? Buddhist teachings remind us that suffering comes not from what we lack, but from the ways we cling, to expectations, to identities, to outcomes we can't control. True peace arrives when we begin to release that grip, one finger at a time, and trust that we are enough, just as we are. I invite you right now to imagine one small shift you could make in your own garden of daily life. Maybe it's creating a corner of your home that feels peaceful, or practicing gratitude for what you have. Maybe it's taking a walk in nature, calling an old friend, or simply breathing deeply and noticing the moment. Inner peace isn't a reward for getting everything right. It's the natural fruit of being present, gentle, and willing to choose again each day. It's found in the slow, patient cultivation of self-compassion, in releasing what weighs you down, and in the quiet joy of being truly awake for your own life. So let your days be guided by what brings you ease, what helps you grow, and what lights even the smallest candle in your heart. Remember, you are the gardener, and every day is a chance to plant, to water, to tend, and to rest in the shade of what you've created. Let's keep tending our gardens of peace, together, with love and gentle attention for as long as we are given. Lesson 14. Gratitude and Acceptance. Let's pause for a quiet moment and take a breath together. Sometimes, the most profound wisdom arrives not with a thunderclap, but in the gentle dawning of gratitude. As we move through the seasons of life, especially as we grow older, the world around us subtly shifts. Some things are lost, and some things, perhaps unexpectedly, become more precious than ever before. It's so easy to look back and count what's been lost, the friends who have drifted away, the health or energy that's changed, the dreams that no longer fit. There's a kind of ache that can settle in when we measure life by what's gone. But Buddhist wisdom gently invites us to turn our gaze toward what still remains, and more than that, toward what is still possible. Gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about opening our eyes and our hearts to the gifts that are here right now, even if they are simple, even if they are fleeting. There's something deeply transformative about practicing gratitude in everyday moments. The more we say thank you for what we have, the less power regret or longing holds over us. I've met people in their 70s, 80s, and beyond who say that the small, ordinary blessings, a warm cup of tea, a conversation with a neighbor, sunlight streaming through the window, are now more meaningful than any of their earlier achievements. One woman told me, "I used to count my problems, now I count my blessings, and life feels lighter." Try this for yourself.
Each day, write down one thing you're grateful for. It might be the taste of fresh fruit, the smile of a grandchild, the simple fact that you woke up to another morning. Over time, these tiny moments of acknowledgement build a quiet foundation of contentment. And, just as importantly, don't forget to give thanks even for your challenges. Buddhist teachings remind us that our difficulties are also teachers, shaping our patience, our humility, and our strength. Maybe you can look back on a hard season and realize it helped you grow in ways you never expected. Acceptance, too, is a companion to gratitude. Sometimes we carry pain, guilt, or resistance, wishing things were different, wishing we could change the past or force the present to be more comfortable. But the practice of acceptance asks us to gently release that struggle, to open our hearts to life as it is, right now. This doesn't mean we give up or become passive. It means we stop fighting reality, and in that softening, something miraculous happens. We find peace, not because everything is easy, but because we are no longer at war with ourselves or our circumstances. Buddhism teaches acceptance is the beginning of transformation. When we accept, we create the conditions for real change, not by force, but by allowing life to unfold. So, I invite you, reflect. What in your life today could you be grateful for, even if it's something small or imperfect? Is there a place where you could practice a little more acceptance, letting go of struggle, and making room for peace? As you move through each day, remember, gratitude and acceptance are not just feelings. They are practices, choices we make, again and again, that gently reshape the way we experience the world. May you find wonder in the ordinary, courage in your acceptance, and a deep sense of appreciation for all that is still unfolding. Let's continue this journey together, discovering how gratitude and acceptance open the door to true freedom and joy.
Lesson 15. Passing on a spiritual legacy. Let's take a pause together and ask a simple, powerful question. When you look back on your life, what do you hope to leave behind? Not the possessions, not the achievements or the titles, but the invisible, lasting gifts, the wisdom, the spirit, and the love that quietly ripple through generations. As we grow older, many of us start to wonder about the legacy we're creating. There's a deep human longing to pass on something meaningful to those who come after us. And more, we realize that what matters most is not what we accumulate, but what we share. Our values, our stories, our deepest lessons. Think for a moment about the people who've shaped you, not just through their words, but through their presence, their kindness, their way of moving through the world. Maybe it was a grandparent who taught you patience, or a teacher who showed you the beauty of curiosity, or a neighbor whose resilience inspired you. These are the true treasures that endure, gifts of the spirit that don't fade with time. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the greatest legacy we can leave is not material wealth, but the seeds of loving awareness, gratitude, patience, and compassion. Imagine what it might mean for your children or grandchildren, or even your community, to inherit not just your belongings, but your hard-earned lessons, your stories of courage and failure, your insights on forgiveness, your daily acts of kindness. There are many ways to share this legacy. Some people write memoirs or letters, capturing the arc of their journey, their struggles, their triumphs, the wisdom distilled through years of living and learning. Others pass it on through stories at the dinner table, quiet moments of advice, or simply by showing up as a living example of kindness and integrity. One woman I met, now in her 80s, told me she spends time each week writing letters to her grandchildren. She doesn't write about money or success. Instead, she writes about her mistakes, her dreams, her gratitude for simple joys, and the lessons she hopes they'll carry forward. To be gentle with themselves, to practice forgiveness, to stay curious and open-hearted no matter what life brings. If you could leave only one message behind for the next generation, what would it be? Maybe it's a reminder to cherish the ordinary moments, or an encouragement to find peace within themselves. Maybe it's a story about a challenge you overcame and what it taught you about resilience or hope. Your spiritual legacy doesn't require a stage or a big audience. Sometimes the quietest gestures, an honest conversation, a loving presence, a willingness to listen, leave the deepest mark on someone's heart. As Buddhist teachings say, what you plant in the hearts of others is what truly lives on. Material things may fade or disappear, but the love, wisdom, and compassion you pass on can echo through generations, shaping lives in ways you may never see. So as you move through this season of life, consider, what seeds are you planting? What stories, values, or lessons are you sharing day by day? Remember, your legacy is not just what you leave behind. It's what you give right now to the world around you. Let's walk forward, together, inspired to pass on the gifts of our spirit, a legacy of love, mindfulness, and gentle strength that will outlast any possession. The meaning of life and awakening. As we reach the end of our journey together, let's pause for a quiet breath, right here, right now. It's easy to believe that meaning in life is something far away, something that requires more years, more achievements, or more time. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us of a deeper truth. You don't need more time. What truly matters is how present you are in the time you already have. There's a beautiful teaching from the Buddha. A single moment of true awareness is more precious than 100 years lived in forgetfulness. This is a gentle invitation, not to chase after more days, more accomplishments, more shoulds, but to wake up to this moment, to really notice the life that is unfolding right here, in your breath, your senses, your relationships, and your own tender heart. Throughout this series, we've explored so many principles: the illusion of time, the importance of mindful priorities, the sacred ground of relationships, the gifts of creativity and community, the wisdom of letting go, and the courage to design a peaceful life from within. But underneath all of these is one unifying thread: living awake. What does it mean to live awake? It's not about being perfect. It's not about never making mistakes or always being at peace. It's about bringing gentle attention to the ordinary details. Noticing the color of the sky as the sun rises. Listening to your own feelings with compassion, even the hard ones. Reaching out to a friend or loved one, not because you have the perfect words, but because you care. Slowing down enough to actually taste your morning coffee, to feel gratitude for a simple kindness, to let yourself be moved by beauty. This is what it means to truly live, not to race through your years, but to gather the moments that matter, to be present for them, and to let them shape your days from the inside out. So as we close, I invite you to choose just one idea from everything we've explored. Let it take root in your life. Maybe it's the practice of gratitude, or the courage to reconnect with someone, or simply a daily moment of silence. Let it help you move through the world with less fear and more gentleness, with less rushing and more presence. Remember, it is never too late to begin again. Life is not measured by the number of years we live, but by the number of moments we are truly awake for. You haven't missed your chance. This very moment is the beginning. Thank you for sharing this journey. May you move forward with clarity, compassion, and the quiet confidence that each present moment holds all the meaning you need. If today's reflection touched something in you, I invite you to take a quiet moment and subscribe to the channel, so we can continue this journey together. Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I read every one, and your story might help someone else on their path too. And if you know someone who might find comfort or inspiration in these messages, consider sharing this video with them. Remember, you are not alone. We're all walking this path together, one mindful step at a time. Thank you for being here, just as you are.